What is a spiritual awakening? It's happening, it's all around us. There's a lot of dialogue about it, but today I want to talk about you and how to step into understanding that for yourself.
This is your moment. This is your moment in time. This is your moment. This is your moment.
It's happening. It is. We're in the middle of a very large spiritual awakening. And a lot of people have a lot of questions about it. What does this really mean? Like, what is a spiritual awakening? And today I want to talk about it in more general terms because there's a lot of language out there. And here's the cool thing about all the amazing people that are out there helping raise the consciousness and raise the understanding. People, especially who are specialized in a particular area, like astrology or the Akashic records or past lives, it's so cool because they talk about uh, larger topics through their translation and how they understand it through the Akashic records or through astrology. And the reason why I think that is so magnificent is because when you listen to all of those, you start to see the similarities. When you start to see the similarities, that's when you understand it on a deeper level. So I'm going to stay in the general discussion of this, and I'm going to do that on purpose because in this video, I want you to walk away with the understanding or the direction on how to understand for yourself what a spiritual awakening means for you. Now, this particular spiritual awakening that's happening, let's talk about on a global scale and then get down to where I want to be, which is with you. On a global scale, absolutely. I mean, we've never seen this much change. All right. I'm currently recording this. It's 2022. We're stepping out of we're stepping into and out of pandemics and crisis and shifts with global leaders. And it's massive. It's absolutely massive. And I've talked about this before, but this whole process, especially when COVID hit and we all went under, quarantine, and we had a lot of political change happen, especially not especially anything all over the globe. It shook us like a muddy bucket of water. It shook that bucket so hard that the mud at the bottom of the water came up, and you were able to start to see exactly how muddy that water is. Bucket gets shook, which is the stress that's gone all over the globe. And as a result, what once looked like pretty clean water because all the mud was on the bottom, that bucket getting shook, the mud all comes up, mixes with the water. Next thing you know, you're looking at that water going, that's a lot dirtier than I thought it was. That's a lot messier than I thought it was. And this is a really good thing. If we want to go with this analogy of a spiritual awakening and love and peace and harmony being crystal clear water in this bucket, we're not there yet. And the first step to cleaning the water that's in this bucket is mixing it up so you can see exactly how much dirt and silt and mud and rocks and stones are at the bottom. And that is called awareness. That's the number one word when it comes to spiritual awakening. And I'll apply this to to you and how you can move forward with it as well. But globally, that's my analogy that I found is the easiest analogy to talk about what's going on. We had this bucket of water that we thought was pretty clean, pretty clear, because all the bad stuff was really kind of under the surface and, kind of hiding out over there, not, you know, right in front of us. The globe goes through all of these changes, very difficult stuff. The bucket gets shook. You look at the water and you go, okay, there's a lot more wrong with this water than we were aware of. In comes the awareness, in comes the door to the spiritual awakening. And I'm going to talk about this on a vibrational level as well. But right now, I'm really talking about it on a human level because I think it's really important. People say, why did all this stuff happen on the globe around the globe? Why? Great question. While I don't have all of the answers, I do know that the communications that I've had with my guides have all revolved around everything needed to get stirred up. We needed the awareness so people could decide what they wanted to do with that awareness. So people could look at that bucket of muddy water and decide what they wanted to do with it. Do you want to work at cleaning that bucket? Do you want to not look at it? Or do you want to make sure that bucket stays muddy? These were really the decisions. This is the spiritual awakening. The spiritual awakening is deciding you want that water to be cleaner. And the best type of spiritual awakening, the best type is to want that bucket of water to be cleaner for the sake of the water, for the sake of the people. You want people to be able to experience love and compassion and connection. That's the clean water, right? That's the love. Hate is the dirt, love is the clean water. Clean, clear, and beautiful. So a spiritual awakening is stepping into the cleaning of that water. We do this on a global scale, we do this on an individual scale. And I personally believe that our actions as individuals or as small groups, it is massively just as powerful as, something that is incredibly like global. I guess it's what I want to say there is I want to say that the vibration that goes out, the ripple effect that goes out by one or two or 10 people with very strong intent is just as impactful as, you know, 200 people. It's the intent, it's the power. And I'm saying that the power of intent. I'm saying that because I never want anyone to underestimate themselves and what they can do. A simple meditation sometimes isn't a simple meditation. Sending that love out into the world, you might have made a bigger difference than you could ever know. Now, let's get back to spiritual awakening. Awareness. This is it. So I've given you the example on a global scale. Now let's break it back down to you, to the individual, because your ripple effect, we've got the big global effect. There are large organizations that are working toward healing and helping our planet. Awesomeness, right? But your contribution, your vibration, your ripple effect is just as important and is part of your spiritual awakening. The awareness. This is what we want to focus on. It is all about waking up. It's all about having access to things that we didn't have access to before. It's all about releasing those blinders that we had put on ourselves. It's all about accessing the spiritual connection to your source, to having that direct connection instead of that middleman connection. That's what your awakening is about. It's the symbolic opening of the eyes to see your soul and not just your physical body. It's the opening of the eyes to see where you came from and not just where you are right now. It's the opening up of your metaphysical eyes to see your spiritual path for what it is. It is a transition that winds and curves and affects every other person connected to it as they wind and curve. It's the dance that we are going through in this lifetime. A spiritual awakening is an understanding of this, of saying, okay, this happens. It's the light coming on in the room so you can see all the details going on around you. It's the shaking of that bucket so you can see exactly how the water is. A spiritual awakening is either feeling or seeing behind the scenes finally that there's something bigger going on. When we do this, when we experience this, our compassion is challenged. Our capacity to love is invited into being all expansive. Our understanding of why we are here changes from a very narrow perspective of I'm here to do this, to be this person with this job title and do this, to understanding that as an energetic being, you're here to be present with others in order to guide and to love and to support and to lift up. It's going from thinking you're on the board game to realizing you're actually playing the board game. That's the spiritual awakening. To understand that instead of, being on the stage and thinking that what's happening on the stage is all that there is, you're able to pull back to that observer position enough to realize that there is a stage, that you are a spiritual being in a human body, that there's more of you than just, the physicality. This is all the spiritual awakening. In essence, it's removing the blinders. In essence, it's raising the vibration. In essence, it's expanding that observer position to be able to see and feel more. When we can do that, it's like living your life in one room, and all of a sudden the walls of that room drop down. And now you're in this ginormous field, and you can see how everyone and everything is interacting with each other. And you understand that you're a part of that, that your movement is like a wave. It's like the water in the ocean pushing one way, and then it pushes back. It's the flow that you feel. It's going from being in a state of I don't matter, I don't make a difference, I'm all alone, to stepping into this awakening and realizing I'm not alone, I'm connected, and I'm supported, and I'm loved, and I love, and I support, and I have purpose. Now, everyone's going to have different purpose. Some people's purpose is going to be focused on the earth, some people's focus on animals, on people, some people even have purpose in politics and global movements and things like this. These are all very important. And if we step into our purpose with the direction of cleaning up that bucket of water, then we've stepped into our spiritual awakening. You've stepped into your moment of strength, and you've stepped into where you're strongest, which is your spirit, not the physical human, the spirit. That's the spiritual awakening. Now, on a vibrational level, there's a lot of different things that can happen to somebody when this happens. And I'll explain it to you like this. All right. We've got the physical body. Bum, bum. We have the spiritual body. Before we have a spiritual awakening, we're very focused on that human body and the human existence and, linear time. When we step into a spiritual awakening, and it's a transition, it doesn't just flip on one day, it's a transition. When we step into that spiritual awakening, we are gaining awareness of our energetic body. When you gain awareness of your energetic body, you put your intent on that, you focus your intent on that, and you see it. When you acknowledge it, you start to be able to feel it. When you acknowledge it, you start to be able to experience what that spirit is experiencing. And this is what changes everything, because you no longer experience things simply on a human physical level. You now start to experience things on a spiritual level as well. The depth of emotion that comes with that, the depth of connection that comes with that, the depth of compassion that comes with that is deep, and it's welcoming, and it's warm, and it's wonderful. Now, through the process of spiritually awakening, we can toggle, and that is natural. So please do not think that a spiritual awakening is waking up one day and being all knowing, or waking up one day and being all balanced and kind and never again mad. You're still human. So when you think about a spiritual awakening, I want you to think about it as a teeter-totter, okay? Let's go back to being 10 at the park here for a minute. I want you to think about it as a teeter-totter. One side spiritual, one side is human, physical. We'll do spiritual, physical, okay? So for most of your life, that spiritual side has been riding high. You got that top viewpoint on your side of the teeter-totter, that physical body. And it's like, I'm here, I'm here, I'm here, I'm here, human, human, human. Spiritual awakening, that teeter-totter starts to tip to where the spiritual, starts to raise its vibration, and you start to pay more attention to or be more within your spiritual body than your human body. This happens, we have beautiful connective moments, messages or dreams or understandings that we never had before, or intuitive moments that start to come through. This is beautiful, it's very exciting. But until the day that you transition, pass away, let go of that body, cross over to the other side years from now when you're very old and very happy and you've lived a wonderful life, until that day comes, you're still a teeter totter. And you can't let go of that. So, still going to go back and forth. You're going to have human times and spiritual times and human times and spiritual times. So, a spiritual awakening isn't stepping completely into your spiritual existence, thriving there, living there, and stepping completely out of the human. That's not what it is. Actually, the ultimate spiritual awakening is the ability to be able to toggle between human and spiritual, the ability to be able to toggle between, being in an intuitive state and being in a very solid human focus. To have the times where you're very, very human, and then have the times where you're very, very, spiritual. That is actually the most healthy spiritual awakening you can experience. Now, going even higher with this vibration, when you have a spiritual awakening, you will uniquely to you connect with things in the spiritual realms that you weren't able to connect with before. And what do I mean when I say uniquely to you? I mean everyone is wired differently. Everyone is connected at a different space and time and connected to different things. If you try to follow your spiritual path exactly like someone else, you're never going to open up completely to it, because every spiritual path is unique. And when you honor that, and instead of trying to follow anyone, you just stand side by side with others who are walking their spiritual path and be like, how's it working for you? Working good for me. How's it working for you? And you focus on your spiritual path and allow it to open up organically and unique to you. You're going to have more experiences. If you've ever found yourself in a space where you've said, hey, I tried to do it like so and so, but it just didn't work, it's because you're not wired that way. You're wired your way. So instead of trying to do it like somebody else, just hold yourself in a space to try to do it the way you do it. Now, you might not know what you're going to connect to upon your spiritual awakening, or you might not know what intuitive sense is going to open up most strongly in your spiritual awakening, or what vibration you'll connect to. But if you step into it saying, I don't know yet, but I'm open to it, you're receiving. If your intent is to open and to follow your spiritual path, to follow down this path of spiritual awakening, to participate in being an important and vital part of cleaning the water in this bucket, then that's where you're going to have the most strength, the most power, the most access to your spirit, and to being able to balance this teeter totter while you're here. That is a spiritual awakening. So for you, what do you do? Okay, so I think I've had a spiritual awakening, don't quite understand it. What do you do? If you like to journal, take out a journal, write down all of your experiences that are happening to you spiritually, write down the sensations that you feel, the things that you see, the books that you're drawn to, the movies that you watch that you're like, wow, that resonated with me. Start a log of the things that are happening to you, that you're experiencing, that you're seeing, the coincidences, the things that you really seem really drawn to. You're not sure why, but I heard about this new thing and wow, everything in me wants to follow that. Start a log. You'll start to see a pattern, and that's actually the pattern you need to follow. When you find yourself following something because somebody else followed it, or because it's super popular or everyone's doing it, take a moment and take a step back and sit with it and just go inside and say, am I supposed to follow this? Am I not supposed to follow this? Ask yourself that yes, that no question, and let your body and your spirit answer you. Because there's a chance that you might have been connected to somebody that was the exact right path for you, and yes, you should follow it. But don't follow it just to follow it. Follow it if your gut, if your intuitive channel is pulling you in that direction. Not if a friend's pulling you, or a mom, or a sister, or a brother, or an uncle, or a coworker. Follow it because you feel compelled to follow it. That is how you navigate your spiritual awakening. And sometimes you're going to have experiences you don't quite understand right away. Journal those down as well. And you can even write down, don't understand it yet. Smiley face. And then keep moving forward, because I guarantee The more you walk the spiritual path, the more attention you put toward your spirit, which is what's happening for so many people right now. They're being asked, they're being lifted up very quickly vibrationally and saying, where do you want to be? And some are choosing to drop back down in their vibration, and that is okay. And some are choosing to stay. If you're watching this video, chances are very good you're choosing to stay. Maybe you don't have all the answers on how to navigate it. And what I want you to hear is that all the answers are within you. Feel that pull, follow the pull, journal, because your human mind's going to want this. Journal down everything that's happening for you, how things are unfolding. Journal even the things that you're not quite sure how they're going to unfold. Stay curious, enjoy the process. Do not put yourself at the final destination. Do not label a final destination. Don't say, when I get there, that's when I've reached my spiritual awakening. Let go of that. An awakening is a process. It is the process. And every experience you have in the process of spiritual awakening, which, by the way, there's never an end point. So every experience you have through the process of a spiritual awakening is the awakening. So don't skip over one. Don't miss one. Focus on it. Be in it. Love it. And then wait for the next one to come. And feel your vibration raise with each awareness that you have. Love the awareness. Love the path. Love the shift in compassion. Love even the frustrating moments that no longer fit, that you need to work a way around not having to have them connected anymore. You can let them go. There's going to be the good and the bad and the frustrating and the blissful and the calm and the peaceful. All of that's going to happen in the process of a spiritual awakening. All of this started to happen, really globally right around 2011 is when it just started to ramp up, right? And the shift isn't even complete yet. It's just a lot more of us are aware that the shift is actually happening. And you are such an important piece of it. You don't have to be famous. You don't have to be a big name. You don't have to have followers. You just have to know that you and your ripple effect with the 2 people you were around yesterday, the 4 people you were around last week, they're around 2 people and 4 people who are around 2 people and 4 people. And your compassion and your love and your high vibration and your intent and your focus on being a spiritual being here in this earth and raising the vibration goes through all of those people just by you holding yourself in that space of unconditional love. So keep going. Stay curious. Don't land anywhere. Have fun with what's happening. And know, if you're watching this video, yeah, you're going through a spiritual awakening. I love you. You've got this. And thank you. Thank you for giving yourself the space to do this, because you're going to make a difference in the world just by being you.
This is your moment.